YouTube. It's AR-15 guy. This is the second part of my Constitution series. This one's going to be on the Second Amendment. This one is, my channel's Second Amendment channel. I mean, I talk about guns and prepping, but it's primarily a firearms channel. So a lot of the people I subscribe to are also big Second Amendment people. What I want to try and do with this one is come at it from a different angle and hopefully add a different twist to it, because we all understand why the Second Amendment's important. We also understand that, at least those of us in the gun community understand that there is a difference between the militia part and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed part. That there is a difference. Those aren't one piece. So let me go ahead and start off by reading that verbatim, like I did in my last video. It says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." So that's how it is stated. That comma separates the militia part, the well-regulated militia being necessary for a free state, comma, the right to keep and bear arms, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So we know that that comma separates those two statements. There's a lot of debate, at least when I was growing up, as to why the Second Amendment was the Second Amendment. In history we learned, the First Amendment was the most important. That's the reason that it was first, and all the other ones were just kind of secondary. I don't believe that to be true. I believe that the Second Amendment was put after the First Amendment because the First Amendment was going to be our most effective, peaceable way to prevent tyranny. The ability to persuade fellow man that the direction we are heading or were heading is wrong, and here is why. And so our ability to talk against another politician or talk against our government was important to prevent tyranny. Well, they also knew that at some point talking would not be effective. That the government would become so overbearing that no matter how much you persuaded, there would be so much corruption in society that no matter how much you tried to persuade, that at some point the only way to protect the Constitution would be for the people to rise up. And also, it also kept the government in check. If you have an armed citizen, your citizens are armed, you're a lot less likely to make drastic changes. As we've seen over time, at least in the U.S., it has been a progression of changes, little tweaks here, little tweaks there, that have brought us to where we're at, because they knew that they could not come out and say, all right, we're gonna have a military government and we're gonna be communistic abruptly, because the citizens were armed and they would rise up against that. So what you've seen is, in the case of progression, our rights to own firearms has started to dwindle, and the size of the government has started to gain traction. And there's no separating those two. That is what happens, is that as we become more regulated on our ability to keep and bear arms, and we can't have military style firearms that are fully automatic without going through hundreds of dollars worth of licensing and all of that stuff. As we've seen that start to erode, the size of government is starting to get bigger. And so what is going to eventually happen if we don't make some adjustments is the government's going to be full of power, and we as the citizen are going to be helpless to them because we aren't going to be armed. So the Second Amendment was ultimately put there to protect the First Amendment and all other amendments to the Constitution, quite frankly. So it was put in place as the second most important, because it was going to be the amendment that protected the Constitution if the First Amendment did not work. And we should always use our voices and our ability to persuade people with our arguments versus taking up arms. I don't want to be one of those ridiculous guys that says, come on, bring the government on. That's ridiculous. That's the last thing you want. So anyway, that's my interpretation of the Second Amendment, that it was put there to protect the First Amendment. The First Amendment was the First Amendment because it was the peaceful amendment, for us to be able to navigate away from tyranny. And then the Second Amendment was placed there to protect that. All else fails, the Second Amendment would be there. So I don't think there's any coincidence that the correlation between bigger government and more regulation on the citizens to have firearms, I don't believe that there's any separating those two. So anyway, guys, that's my view on the Second Amendment. A little bit different explanation, I think, than some of the videos that are out there. You know, there's a lot of good information out there. I just wanted to come at this a little bit differently. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please post comments. Please let me know what you think, and we'll go from there.